John will start the recording.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, I want to welcome Brad Allen here. And those of you that are going to be watching this, Brad Allen is a NFL official. He's crew chief. You've probably seen him on Sundays wearing the white hat. He is also the president and executive director of North Carolina Senior Games here in North Carolina. Been doing that since 2004. Is that correct?
That's true, Jake. Yeah.
I personally got to know Brad in probably either 94 or 95 when I was playing baseball at Pembroke. And the first thing I remember about you, Brad, was you looked as young as me. And I struck a kid out, and he went out to right field. The next thing I know, you were throwing him out. I don't know exactly what he did, but I remember that. And to go a little bit further, that summer I worked with the Robeson County Parks and Recreation, and you were calling a Parks and Rec game. And that next day I was talking to Van Sampson, who was my supervisor. Right. And we talked about you and the officiating, and he talked about what a great official you were. And he said, one day we're going to see him, we're going to turn on TV and he's going to be calling Major League Baseball. So at that time, he was thinking that you were going to be a Major League Baseball official and not an NFL official. I remember too that you had you graduated with a BA from Pembroke. You got your master's from Wake Forest. And what I remember from that time is, and what Van told me, was that you were working the night shift at a hotel so that you could call ball on. And you called, from what I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but you called rec ball, junior high, middle school, high school, college, and you called every sport you could call. Can you elaborate a little bit on what all you were doing back then and how you got to where you're at now?
Well, thank you, Jack, for inviting me to be here today. And on behalf of North Carolina Senior Games, I want to thank you and all the Parks and Recreation professionals across the state for what you do to allow senior games to take place. I think my priorities were probably messed up back in those days. There's not too many people who will work all night so you can get a few hours of sleep and then go officiate sports all day. So whether I was entirely sane or not back then probably is up for debate. And I remember, and by the way, for whoever's watching this, I hope you know what a great athlete Jack Baldwin was back in the day at the old Pembroke State. I don't think it was called UNC Pembroke then, right? Wasn't it?
No, it was Pembroke State, PSU, and I still call it that.
Yeah, as an alum, I would say that too. But a really great athlete. He was always around the corners, and that one particular day, some player decided to tell me that my corners were a little wider than they should have been for Jack's pitches. But nevertheless, I'm sorry that my career stands out for an ejection, but I did spend a lot of time officiating in the youth level and the recreation level. And you mentioned the late Van Sampson. What a great, dedicated professional who is symbolic to me of what dedication is about in the Parks and Recreation profession. So, I did. I worked in hotel management, third shift, would sleep a few hours, and then I'd either go do a college baseball game or a little league game or a basketball game or whatever it is. So that was a long time ago, but I'm glad that you remember that.
What sparked your interest into taking on the role of doing that and going out there to these games on all levels and getting hollered at? Because I know you get hollered at all the time. So what sparked that interest?
Yeah, so I started officiating Little League games in Robeson County, North Carolina in 1986 when I was 15 years old. And at the time, I was a student athlete in high school. I was playing sports in high school, and I, like anybody or most people, I would think, I looked up to my daddy. My daddy had been a professional baseball player. He played, like you, at Pembroke State. He was drafted by the Mets. He played in the minor leagues. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, it was evident when I was 15 that I was not going to play professional baseball like my daddy did. But you could play in high school because there's still a lot of life lessons you learn in both youth and high school sports. And you could get involved and stay involved in sports in a different way. So my daddy was a catcher. So I thought it would be cool for me to put a mask on just like daddy, but instead of being the catcher, I was the person behind the plate who was calling balls and strikes. So May 1986, Magnolia Little League in Robeson County was the first place that I ever officiated. And, in 1986, when you're 15 years old, Robeson County Parks and Recreation was paying $8 a game for Little League baseball. And 2 games a night, 5 or 6 nights a week. In 1986, for me, that really wasn't too bad. So it was both a commitment or a love of sport, and it was also the desire to make a few extra dollars, to be quite frank, as a 15-year-old that got me involved. And honestly, I don't know that hooked is a good term to use, but I absolutely I enjoyed being an official. I enjoyed being around the people who ran the sports, around the young people who were playing. I enjoyed the coaches. Most of the time I enjoyed the parents. They were okay. But so here's what happens though, Jack. When you're good as an official in one sport, there are people who are working different sports, and they say, hey, you're doing a good job in baseball. And that was my dream. Van was right. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball umpire. I trained with the Major League umpires, and again, for whatever reason, somewhere along the way, I decided that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. But anyway, the football people look at you, or the basketball people see you, or the volleyball people say, hey, you can run a baseball game. Come over here and work this game. And like Van Sampson, the Parks and Recreation professional from years ago, a multi-sport official, well, come with me down here and see how you like it. So that's really, it's kind of like a rash. You start off with one little bump, and then you look, and then you've got a bigger rash. But that's how it works. You get recruited. If you're good at one thing, you're going to be recruited to go do other things. And other than volleyball, which I did not play, I had played some in different sports, so I had a base of knowledge in order to, get started at the youth level. So that's how it all started. A really, as they say in Star Wars, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I understand. And from my personal experience of having watched you call on TV now and in person live back when I was working there and playing, I don't know that I've seen you miss a call. Now, one of your partners, Angus Watson, he missed a lot. But
that's the late Angus Watson.
He was a super nice guy. I love when he called our games too.
Beautiful.
And you two worked very well together. So, what is one of your favorite memories of calling a recreational league game? What is something that just stands out and doing those type games, youth games?
I think you really have already hit on it, Jack. And I want to differentiate, because we use the term recreation, and I don't know how professionals do, but to me, there's a real difference as an official between being a recreation adult official and being a recreation youth official. And it's
right.
not that you have a different level of effort or commitment, but adults do their thing, and you have to really be in charge of the game. If you can officiate an industrial league basketball game in Robeson County, North Carolina, you can work the Super Bowl, the World Series, the NBA Finals, whatever it is, because those folk are both talented but vicious. So that I'm just going to leave it at that. But as far as youth sports is concerned, and I really thought about this as we came into this session, and you've really already touched on it, there's not one thing, there's not one moment that stands out to me. I was so proud if they selected me to do, the youth football championship game or the baseball all-star game, or that's what you want to be. If you're an official worth your salt, you want to be the best and to get selected for the premier assignments. But you alluded to Van Sampson, Angus Watson, Leon Maynor, Elmer Musselwhite, people who were involved in youth sports as officials for decades. And that's what I remember now, because as I am now 51, I get to sit back and remember being 15 years old as a probably frightened to death little baseball umpire going into it, but people of character, people with integrity, people who wanted to be there as an official so that young people would have a fair opportunity to play whatever sport it was. That's what I remember the most. It's not just one thing, one event, one game, one special occasion, but it's people who were professional people, who were school teachers, who were, clinical social workers, people who worked in plants all day and then left their job and went and worked youth sports at night because they still wanted to be involved and make sure the kids had the best officials they could. That's what I remember. That's the most important thing about youth recreation sports. And I think by far, that is what most of us were involved. Now, again, I was 15 and I wanted $16 a night too, but that didn't mean that I wasn't serious about doing the job, because I knew that I had mentors and people watching me that wanted me to do the best for the kids. So I honestly think that that's the thing that has stayed with me. Jack, you are a former athlete. You have children or a child who plays sports at a high level. We're talking about setting the foundation for life in youth sports. We're talking about learning teamwork. We're talking about how to deal with both highs and lows. You're talking about sportsmanship. All of those things serve as the basis for professional people as they age into whatever profession they're going to be in. So that's not a short answer. I understand.
No, that's a perfect answer.
But that's what youth sports was about and remains about to me.
Well, so back to my kids, you mentioned the kids when they were born. I was struggling to buy formula, diapers, twins. It was tough. So I started officiating. I started officiating baseball because that's what I love. And I got out of it, and I'll tell you why I got out of it, and it'll lead to the next question. I got out of it because I saw what the coaches were teaching the kids and knew that was not proper technique, not proper way to go about teaching kids. So my question is, how, as an official, what is your advice to the coaches that we're going to have listening to this, and how they should handle the kids and their relationship with the officials in these youth sports programs?
Well, I think that we are really at a point where we have to address this question head on, because whether we know it or not, whether we want to give it any credence or not, we are at a critical shortage of sports officials in this country. And there are states that cannot play all of their high school varsity games, for example, in football on Friday night, because there are not enough officials to cover those games. So they have to now play some on Thursday and some on Friday and some on Saturday, and maybe the same group or same crew of officials works all 3 nights at different schools. So I have never coached. I have a great respect for coaches. And what I would say to coaches is, first of all, recreation coaches, thank you for giving your time, because I know that it is often a thankless job, just like being an official. Parents get on coaches in an unmerciful way sometimes because their child's not getting playing time or they have greater knowledge than the coach does. I always said to parents who wanted to second guess coaches and officials, well, you come do it. Come on. I mean, we'll gladly take you on our team if you're that much better than me. But I will say that I heard this quote first from Mark Dreibelbus, who is an associate commissioner and the supervisor of officials for the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. And he said in some of his clinics that what you permit, you promote. And young people are watching you, Mr. Coach, Ms. Coach. They are looking at the way that you interact with, the way that you speak to, the tactics that you use in dealing with officials. And if we're talking about young people who are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up until their teenage years, they look up to coaches. Coaches are role models. Coaches are the ones who set the tone. And again, parents obviously are the front line. But there are many cases, at least in rural North Carolina, where there may not be two parents at home. There may be an opportunity for a coach to serve as the person who is a guiding force in a young person's life. And if all they hear is second guessing and assaulting the character of officials, how is that young person ever going to know anything other than officials are bad? Officials are there to cheat, which is not true. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely we do. And by the way, I will send you a check for you publicly saying that you never saw me, because I certainly have made more than I ever wanted to make. But we have to understand that young people are watching us. We are not at the youth level. We are not, and Jack, you'll remember this, and whoever is younger than me certainly won't remember the days when you watched a Major League Baseball game, Billy Martin or Earl Weaver or Lou Piniella or some of those people who literally kicked dirt on umpires. That was what we saw, and therefore that's what coaches and players aspired to. That's what they saw as their role model. At the youth, first of all, it's not right for people to behave that way at any level, whether we're in the pros or whether we're working middle school or youth sports. But that is not what the value and the worth of youth sports is about. We have to understand the officials who come to work your games, unless it's a very unusual situation, are not professional officials. That is not to say that they should not approach your game, coach, with a professional work ethic, knowing the rules, being in the right position, having good judgment. Yes, you should expect that, but you can't demean and belittle and question officials. Let's establish a dialogue that is professional and courteous. As an official, it is not my job to rip off my mask and yell at you in the dugout. That's not my job. It's not my job to incite a confrontation. But one of the reasons that we have a terrible shortage of officials in this country, and you can look it up on YouTube. If you go on YouTube or you Google youth sports official assaulted by coach, you're going to see some terrible, terrible examples of things that have happened. I'm not casting blame in any particular one situation, but we cannot ever cross the line where we allow our emotions and our intensity of being a coach to do something that is unprofessional and frankly illegal if we start talking about confronting and or assaulting sports officials. First of all, it's wrong. In North Carolina, it's a felony, but you've also got little people watching you. We're never going to have any respect for the game, and that's the bottom line, respect the game, or for officials if we don't model sporting behavior. And it starts with coaches and the manner in which we as officials and you as coaches interact. Can we agree to disagree? Absolutely. There absolutely will be those times, but we can do so in a professional manner, in a manner that does not cross the line and that does not do disservice to the game, to your community, and to your integrity as a role model for young people.
When you started talking there, I was reminded that after my freshman year at Pembroke, Dr. Danny Davis, we called him Dot, was our coach, and he told us, he said, when you go home this summer, you either find a team you can coach or you go officiate. And he wanted us to do that so that we would have a better understanding of what it's like to be in his shoes and what it was like to be an official. And honestly, I did both that summer. And I came back my sophomore year with a very different view on officials and on coaches and what they have to deal with. So that was I encourage anyone, like you said, who wants to be a coach, to take some time and do some officiating just to see the other side of it. I want to ask that same question to you about your advice for the parents who are in these youth leagues, because we've seen some crazy things happen with parents also. So what would you say about the relationship with the parents and the officials?
Well, first of all, again, parents, thank you for having your young people, your girls and your boys involved in youth sports. Another significant health issue that we have in this country is related to childhood obesity. And that's because young people are not physically active. They're sitting on the couch, they're watching TV, they're playing video games, whatever it is. I'm not casting judgment. Look, I've got an 8-year-old right now who probably needs some motivation to be more physically active too. So I'm not casting aspersions because we work long hours and there's not enough hours in the day, and there are all these challenges that come as parents. So thank you for having your young people involved in youth sports. I think it's character building. I understand, because my daughter played in church league basketball. It is difficult when you are sitting in the stands yelling and screaming and supporting your child when you see something that you perceive to be an error, an incorrect call, an injustice. So I'm not saying that you can't yell, that you can't serve to motivate your child and or the official, but you cannot cross the line by using language that is profane, that is belittling, that is insensitive to someone's culture, or that is threatening. Because again, that child is looking at you. If there's a problem with the capacity of an official who is working your child's game, go through the proper channels. Speak to your coach. Speak to your field supervisor. Speak to your athletic director. There may be a way that you can help to improve the training program for your officials. It is not true, parent, Mr. and Mrs. Parent, that they go and find people at Foot Locker wearing striped shirts and they say, hey, I got a game today at 3:00. When you finish selling shoes, can you come and work this little kid's game that we've got? That's not the way that it works. There are hours of unseen time involved in association meetings and studying rules and studying video and learning the mechanics and snap after snap after snap, or play after play after play. It's not as if we in the parks and recreation profession just put people out there because they can fog a mirror. That's not true. But you have to understand that in addition to modeling sporting behavior for our young people, we also have to remember that officials are going to make mistakes. At the youth level, the officials are learning just like your child is. Now, that's not easy. If I call strike 3 on your child and the ball bounced in there, you're not going to be happy. I get it. Officials know that coming in. So officials have to have, we call it somewhat of a thick skin. So barking at the official, or Mr. Blue, Mr. It's amazing to me. We've changed the color of the uniform to black now, and they still call us Mr. Blue. Mr. Blue, you missed that pitch. Okay. That comes with the territory. But you cannot cross the line. You got to understand that there is a line that you cannot cross because your child is watching. The same goes true for putting too much pressure on your child. I mean, there are very few, and I don't know the percentage. Jack can tell you what it is. There are very few, I would say, by percentage, youth sports participants who are going to play in college, and even fewer than that who are going to play as professionals. But why not allow your child to learn the basics and the fundamentals of a sport? Because what are the first 3 letters of fundamental? F-U-N. Fun. Let your kid have fun. If they strike out, then work with them so they won't strike out that many times in the future. But you can't yell and scream at your kid either, just like you can't yell and scream at the officials. We don't want to make mistakes. Good officials will carry a mistake with them every single play. You've got to learn as an official, I got to get on to the next play. If I'm thinking about a play either 3 pitches ago or 3 downs ago, I'm going to miss the next one. So know that officials are there because they love the game. Yeah, okay, maybe they're going to make $16 a night. I don't know. By the time you look at the number of hours that they put into training for that game and the gas it takes to get there, $16 or whatever it is, right, doesn't go very far. So know that officials are not there to cheat you. At the youth level, in many cases, they are learning. And we got to make sure that we have newer, inexperienced officials who are willing to come out there, because if not, they're going to turn around one night and they're going to say, we got no umpires. Daddy, come over here. We've got some old catcher's gear. You get behind the plate, and Mama, you go out on the bases, and then we'll see how it is. And I'd say that somewhat in jest, but it's hard to cover all the games and all the sports when we simply don't have enough officials. And parents, we can all do our part together to make sure that your daughter, your son, has an opportunity with officials. That's what I would say. Please have some measure of patience, and don't look. How many people, if you work in a bank or you're a teacher or you work at Walmart, how many people show up at your job and yell and scream and curse at you and question whether or not your mom and daddy were married at the time of your birth? It doesn't happen. So don't do that when you go to your son or your daughter's game. It's not the right thing to do.
Well, Brad, I'm hoping that some children are going to be watching this with their parents or coaches, and I'm just wondering what would you say to those youth participants that are watching now, and as they prepare for their seasons.
First of all, I hope you get to have a season. And I hope that we're able to overcome the current circumstances and that you get out there and play. Listen to your coaches. Learn what it is that they are trying to impart to you as volunteers. But have fun. Understand, too, that Mr. and Ms. Blue who shows up is there because they want to support your game. They want to do the best they can, just like you. They're going to make mistakes sometime, but they're not doing it intentionally. They're trying as hard as they can. So just understand that we want you to do well. We want you to have fun. And hopefully together we can provide the best atmosphere in a post-COVID-19 environment that we possibly can. I would just say to you, have fun. Enjoy every moment, because you're going to look back like I am now 36 years after I first became a youth sports official, and you're going to remember the good times. I hope that you're not having to remember the bad times. Go out there and have fun and have a great season is what I would say to you all.
Is there anything else any other advice you would want to give coaches or parents or students that you hadn't already mentioned?
So, and I say this sincerely, there will be a day in which your playing time comes to an end. It could be like me after high school. It could be sooner than that. It might be like for my daddy after his minor league baseball career. Think about becoming a sports official. Jack indicated there probably are going to be some people who are going to bark at you sometimes. But you can stay involved in a sport that you love in a way that is meaningful to the game, and that I promise you, look, I come from a rural, poor part of North Carolina, Robeson County, North Carolina. There are not very many people who would have thought that some little dude who was working Little League Baseball in 1986 at Magnolia Little League would have had the opportunities that being an official has afforded to me. The Rose Bowl, the Army-Navy game, being a referee in an NFL playoff game. It's awesome. You're going to have to put time, energy, and effort in. But think about becoming an official. We'd love to have you on our team.
What would be the number one advice you would give someone who's wanting to get into officiating, or maybe it's more than one thing? But
yeah, so I think that you have to understand that you're going to have to learn the game in a way that is different from when you played or when you coached, because it is much different when you are trying to win. You're trying to hone a certain set of skills, either as a player or as a coach, because you want to win. Officials don't win. We win when we nail the rule book inside and out. I'm not saying that you over-enforce rules to the point of technicality. That's not it. But if you know that your judgment is solid, that you know when to call a foul and when not to call a foul, that you progress up the ladder, that's how you win. There will be nights when you feel like you didn't do anything right. and there will not be a win and there will not be a loss, but there'll be an opportunity for you. So just understand that officiating, just because you've been a great coach, just because you've been a great player, doesn't mean you'll be a great official. You got to put in some time. But I'm telling you, the people that you will meet, the women and men who serve with you on the court, on the field, on the pitch, I think in soccer, they will become some of the greatest people that you have ever met. So I would tell you to understand that it's not the same being an official as it is being a coach or a player, but it's valuable and you can stay involved. And I'm telling you, it could give you a lifetime of memories and of a sense of achievement. Not a win or a loss, but a sense of achievement for sure.
Well, you mentioned three things earlier. Yeah, you talked about the Rose Bowl, the Army-Navy game, calling NFL playoff game. What and we asked you earlier about your favorite rec memory, but what is your favorite memory of your career? This career that you've had through college and rec and professional. What's your greatest memory? The greatest what did you enjoy the most?
Again, and by the way, thanks for putting me on the spot, Jay. That's very nice.
Well, I've heard your story about the Rose Bowl, and that was an awesome story. And I just, when
you're a little dude from rural North Carolina, and you walk out on the stage at the Rose Bowl, and you look around, and there are 100,000 people yelling and screaming, and there are millions of people watching on TV, and there's only one person in that stadium wearing a white hat who is in charge of the granddaddy of them all. Man. You think about the people who helped get you there. Look, I couldn't get to the game when I was 15 unless my mom or daddy drove me to the game.
Yep.
So your parents, you think about your mentor officials, you think about the coaches that you had, you think about all the things, and you stop for a minute. And I looked around in Pasadena, California, and I thought to myself, wow, this is absolutely the coolest place that a dude from Robeson County, North Carolina could ever be. So I would say that was certainly one of my significant memories, and one that I got to share it with my wife, who at the time was pregnant with our daughter.
Oh, so that's awesome.
It's something that we were able to. Now, they weren't on the field, mind you, but I'm just saying.
Right. They were there.
They were there. But I would say, yeah, the Rose Bowl is pretty special. The Army-Navy game, when you work the Army-Navy game, and at the end of the game, each team goes to the Corps of Cadets or the midshipmen, and they sing the alma mater to the other set. And you understand that some of those young people playing in that game or sitting in that stadium will not see another Army-Navy game because of their sacrifice to our country. That what could be more powerful than that? That
just
game
gave me goosebumps thinking about that.
Just more than that. So again, both of those are very special and important to me. Hey, I hope there are some more highlights because I'm not done yet. I've got some more time. So hopefully I'll be able to make some more memories. And hopefully whoever listens to this will in some way know that it's okay to be an official.
Well, and I will say personally, having known you as long as I have, it's exciting for me to be able to see you, the guy from Robeson County, having gone to UNC Pembroke and spent time living in Robeson County, to see someone I know on the TV. And Scott Graham is one of my real good friends in Parks and Rec here in Raleigh. And during the football season, he'll text me and say, "Hey, Brad's got the Chargers and the Lions game," or whatever, so that we'll know what game you've got that time. And it's funny. My son Lane, we drove down to Pembroke yesterday, and he watched the Pembroke baseball game all the way down there. He went to class. He got out of class, and he was watching the UNC Pembroke basketball game that was going on. And he's always got TV on, and every time you come on, he's like, "Hey, I've never met him, but that's Brad Allen. I know him." So know that, the people from Robeson County, the people who know you, are watching you and enjoy watching you, and knowing that that little kid from Robinson County has made it to the NFL, to the Rose Bowl, to the Army Navy game, and you have done Robinson County and the people in the area very proud. I think everyone I talk to would say that. I don't think anybody thinks that Brad Allen. I've never heard of a bad thing about Brad Allen, and I appreciate that.
I do too.
Now, Tom Brady or somebody else might have said something that I haven't heard, but I don't flow in those circles, you know.
That's fair enough.
Was there anything else you would like to share before we close this up, and anything else you thought of as we were going through?
No. Again, though, when we stop to think about the long hours, the weekends, the holidays that our professionals in Parks and Recreation work in order to ensure that our young people have the opportunity to play, there can be no calling, no mission any more pure than that. So thank you, Jack, for all these years of hard work on behalf of young people and adults as a professional. And please stay safe, everybody. Hopefully we'll be past our current circumstances soon, and we'll all be able to play in a day where we don't have to worry about COVID-19.
Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate it. This Town of Garner is trying to get some content out, on virtual content out, and we'll get this out, and hopefully we'll get a lot of viewers and a lot of people. I think a lot of people, coaches, participants, and parents can learn a lot from what you've told us today. So I appreciate your time, and good luck in the next NFL season.
Right. All right, brother. I really appreciate you, man. Stay safe.
Have a good one.
Yep. God bless.
Uh-huh.